Witch Necromancer. As you can see, we are in Act 9 in the Blood Aqueducts. Yeah, we're gonna summon some skeletons here, so we've at least got something attacking. Until we can summon our zombies. Nice chromatic item there. There we go. So we've got our max zombies. So we're going to kind of move through here. Now, Blood Aqueducts is actually a pretty nice area to farm. Reason being is you can get the divination card that'll help you get the Tabula Rasa, which we've mentioned a couple times before in the streams and videos. It's a 6-link unique. It doesn't have any stats attached to it, but it's, you know, a guaranteed 6-link with all white sockets, which means you can equip any jewels or any gems that you want in it, making it a super high value item. Oh, excuse me. As you can tell, I'm still kind of fighting through a cold here, but we will try to not let that affect the stream tonight. I have gone back to the old format of just streaming to YouTube here directly from my PS4 for now. After this week, I do plan to make the move to Twitch, just because I do want to expand the channel a bit and kind of reach out to a second viewer base and hopefully bring some more people into, you know, getting to see the tutorial guides and everything on YouTube. People who, you know, might also need some help who haven't necessarily seen the channel yet. So we're just kind of moving through and just letting our zombies do the work for us as we just kind of teleport through everything. We'll snag that chromatic orb. Nice thing is here too, as we're teleporting through them with this electric damage, we do have elemental equilibrium attached right now through our passive tree, and our zombies have freeze damage with generosity support, which means that it only applies to them and not to me. I think I might have failed to mention that in the last video, but that's what causes them to get not necessarily a damage buff, but it debuffs our enemies' cold and fire resists. So that's how we're doing a little extra damage there. So moving through a level like that, it kind of helps out because we can use our movement skill to get through quicker while also lowering our enemies' defenses. So it essentially makes our zombies more effective as we're running through. So he gives us a side quest. I believe they give us a side quest as well. Oh, no, I don't want to trade with that guy. So there's quite a few side quests in this act. We're going to skip through most of them and just kind of go through the main missions like we have been. As you can see, there's nobody up here anymore. And that's kind of the cool thing about acts 6 through 10 is the fact that you kind of get to see, you know, the repercussions of everything that's happened since Act 5. Oh, and that's why you don't see anybody, because they're dead. Excuse me, sorry. So we'll go through and check our map, but I believe we're just strictly moving. Yep, we're just moving forward. So we only have one place that we can go to. So we'll just go ahead and push through. And head off into the descent. And so this will be one of the few non-completely desert areas of this act. Refusing chromatic item. our zombies are actually doing quite a bit of work right now, which is nice because we're still a bit squishy from what I remember in the last act. Yeah, like that took down all of our energy shield right there in one pop. So one thing we'll probably be focusing on tonight while building the character up as we level is going to be picking up some extra life nodes. I think that's going to be key at this point. Lately we've picked up a few more minion damage nodes, which are useful, and they've definitely been paying dividends. But we really need to go ahead and just make ourselves a bit tankier. Got a nice 6-socket item here. If we can actually get to it, there we go. And you always want to pick up 6 sockets just because they're going to give you 7 jeweler's orbs in return when you go ahead and vendor that item. Yeah, there's only one direction to go to from here. We're on the ascent, we need to descend. Lots of wolves around here. We're going to Liam Neeson our way through. We're in a bad spot. Rip. Yeah, and that's the thing. If we we take that cold damage and we get slowed down, we can't use our movement skill. That's not going to end well for us. So we're just going to try and move through here. Cold damage, I believe, right now is actually what we have the least amount of resist to as well. So not only is it slowing us down, but we're also taking a ton of damage from it. So those are just enemies we pretty much want to avoid in general. Now let's go ahead and get our skeleton army up here, see if we can finish off these guys and get a little bit of experience. We do need to gain a couple of levels here, so that way we can pick up some more life nodes. And we're going to continue to skip Kvass. So basically the goal is tonight we're going to go ahead and get through Act 9. On Wednesday night we'll go ahead and finish up Act 10. So that we'll finish up our playthrough. And keep in mind we've gone through this playthrough without using, actually even without using the full amount of stash tabs you would start the game with. We've used like 1.5 so far. And we've also gone through without purchasing a single item from the trade market. That was intentional, just because I wanted to show that you can get through the first 10 acts by strictly using your own gear, without purchasing anything, by just crafting a few things here and there, without having to depend on selling things, and without having to depend on, you know, actually buying any extra stash tabs. So it's not necessarily the ideal way to do it. It was more or less, this has more or less been an experiment, just to see how well we could succeed in doing that. And I mean, it's gone relatively well. We've only, you know, actually ripped a handful of times. Yeah, I don't feel like we've struggled. We've actually done better in some boss fights than I expected us to. Alright, let's go ahead and clear this area out. Because we do need to level here quickly, and we're only 1 bar away from our next level. And most of the areas in this act are actually going to look quite a bit like this. A lot of desert, a lot of brown, not a lot of foliage. Our zombies actually are not dying at all. Doing relatively well. Got a little quest marker up here. Stormweather chest. I believe this might actually be for a side quest. Just double check here. Yeah, so we need to go to the refinery and the boiling lake. So this is actually for a side quest, but we're going to actually skip that for now. So if I remember correctly, that's just going to put an item in our inventory that we'll have to complete the quest in order to get rid of. And I'm just not really looking to waste that space right now. Alright, and up here we have the Immortal Syndicate hanging out. So it's a good thing we have our ball skeleton skill ready to use. And it's going to be fortification because we have the little fort here. Let's get rid of this guy. So hopefully our minions can actually do a little work here, just because we're not going to really be able to do a whole lot of damage output here. So we're definitely relying on them. And we just lost our skeleton army, which is unfortunate. All of our zombies still intact, though. These healing totems on this thing suck, though. Raise some normal skeletons. Oh, I actually didn't realize we had a syndicate member just hanging outside there. And we're getting bombarded by some mummies. Nice thing is this should bring us pretty close. Actually, this should level us. Just gotta keep them away from those healing totems. Skeletons and break through this wall. Yeah, I think he retreated back to the healing totem. Oof. Yeah, we just really don't have the damage output without our skeleton army. Well, maybe we do. We just had to get him away from those healing totems. There we go.
Just do it, you git.
So from here, we'll probably just execute Guff, rank him up 1 level. So now he's a rank 2. And we should get a different option.
I must confess, I believed you to be bluffing.
So he's basically going to snitch and give us 4 intelligence there. And we will talk to John and unveil these items.
Exile.
Let's see. And we can tell that by that little strange icon that's hanging out right there that it's a veiled item. So we'll definitely take the minion skill there. And I more or less do this just for the actual crafting recipes that you're getting from unveiling these items. So like right there, now we have a crafting recipe to add fire and chaos damage. Hopefully the ring gives us something good. Let's stay on the path to getting some chaos resist. Chaos resistance, in my opinion, is the most difficult to actually build up. Some life regen. I think this is our last item. Armor, energy shield, and max life. That's a super nice one. Yep, and that's it for now. So we'll move on from here and continue about our business. And hopefully this is the area we need to head to up here. Foothills, I believe it is. Only one way to find out. Yep, so we're definitely in the correct area. Really surprised we didn't level up from fighting the Immortal syndicate there. 96%. And that's something too, if you ever want to know exactly how much more experience you need to get your next level, you can always click left stick in. It'll show you your current XP, what percentage it is, and actually how much XP you're earning per hour. Level 62. So we'll go ahead and let our skeleton army help us kill this blue pack. A couple of blue packs, that was actually a good spot to pop that at. Waypoint up here. So our focus tonight's going to be just moving forward a bit more. I don't want to spend too much time in Act 9. I'm hoping we can get through this one a little quicker than we've gotten through a couple of the previous acts. Well, they're just waiting at the entrance for us. How nice. So they take him out. Let's go ahead and apply another passive point. Let's see here. So we're probably going to come down here, because that way we can actually get an increased percentage and a flat 20. That should work really nice. And so there's Sulfite here. That'll help us for if we decide to go delving with this character later on. Make sure we're on the right track, and we are. So we can afford not to grind too much here. Yeah, I actually noticed the other morning, there's not a lot of people who actually do much streaming on YouTube for Path of Exile in general. I'd mentioned it earlier, but I'm actually hoping next week to start streaming on Twitch, and then potentially just, if not many people can catch the, thanks man, appreciate the sub. If not many people can catch the stream on Twitch, I'll probably just record a copy of the video while I'm streaming and just upload it to YouTube. So that way I'm kind of trying to help a new audience while, you know, still helping everyone here on YouTube who may not participate on Twitch. There's just a lot more people watching on Twitch. When I checked, and it could be the time of day that I looked to, but when I checked the other morning, there were about 30 people watching streams on YouTube, while at the same time there was about 7,000 people watching streams on Twitch. Granted, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like a lot of the top PC players stream on Twitch, so a lot of people are watching those guys. If there's one thing that I realized from kind of watching their streams, it's I talk a lot. Not to say they don't talk, but a lot of them just kind of hang out, explain a couple things here and there, listen to some music. It's a pretty relaxed environment in there. Twitch, I think you can get away with playing some music too. On YouTube, you'd get a copyright strike immediately. Yeah, man, go ahead, shoot. Hopefully I can answer. This guy should be worth taking out here. Oh, we actually had to take that guy out. That is one half of what we need for Sin. We should probably actually be looking for some upgrade items for our equipment too. Our equipment's not that great. Are there certain like tiers of maps you're struggling with, or is it just like even the first couple of tiers that you're struggling with too? Because if you manage to get past Kitava in Act 10, like you're probably strong enough to at least get through the first couple tiers of maps. Because if it's like a certain tier that you're getting stuck at, what I'll tend to do is essentially just run the lower tier maps over and over again and just try and gear up a bit better, or even just gain a few more levels. Because typically it's going to be your gear that's holding you back more than anything. On Friday, because I'm hoping tonight we'll finish Act 9, and then Wednesday we'll do Act 10 with this character. And on Friday, I just want to do a little bit of mapping. Okay, fair enough. Have you grinded out any currency at all? Like, you sitting on any extra chaos orbs by chance? Because typically what I'll do, we're not doing it with this character just because I wanted to do a strict, like, no buying anything from the trade market with our currency, nothing like that. Just a strict, like, craft and go type of playthrough. But it's not a bad idea to check out the trade market and just looking for, like, decent gold items. I think a huge misconception in the game is that you're always better off with a unique, and that's not really the case. Like, it's good to have a couple of uniques, and certain uniques can completely help you with your build. But a lot of the times, if you go like full uniques in your build, you're going to be missing out on some resists. You'll probably have relatively low life, and it's actually more important to be tanky in this game most of the time than to output a ton of damage. Placing the maps. Yeah, I do have a guide on my YouTube page for like the very beginning, like the basics of how you run like the map device and run your first couple of maps, which might be helpful in that. In regards to Fearless though, I would look through your actual equipment and see if you have any gold items that are just not really doing a whole lot for your overall build. Because even upgrading an item or two can take you potentially, yeah. What I would do is maybe run a few of the last areas in Act 10, and then basically just pick up some of the gold items that are dropping, identify them, see if there's enough stats to where it's useful for your character, and then you can go back to your hideout and take it to the crafting station that's in there and add one more useful stat. So say like you need a lot of mana and a couple of resists and some health, and you find an item that actually has like the resist you're looking for and mana but no health. As long as you have, you know, health in particular is a prefix modifier. As long as you have an open prefix, which means you don't have at least 3 on your item already, you can craft health directly onto your item. So basically, if you find gold items that have, you know, all but one stat that you're really looking to help your build, you can mastercraft that on there and, you know, essentially make it the item that you need for your build. How do players place items and trade? So if you have premium stash tabs, unfortunately it is something that you do have to pay for in-game. But when you have a premium stash tab, if you hit the right stick when you're actually in that tab, you can set it as a public tab, and that's what actually like posts everything in that tab to the trade market. So that's what actually allows you to trade. Better energy shield. So one thing you'll want to look for with energy shield is intelligence-based items already have a lot of energy shield attached to them. So let me just clear these enemies out and I'll kind of show you. My gear on this character isn't all that great, but like these boots right here, these are intelligence-based. So they all have energy shield already attached to them. And you can see I have the plus 46 to maximum energy shield. That's something to pay attention to too, with life and energy shield. So maximum is better than a percentage when it comes to energy shield and life. Because if it has a percentage on it, it's just applying it to that particular item. To where if it says maximum, it's actually applying it to your overall energy shield, like for your character. And that somewhat pertains to your passive tree nodes too. Like percentage is nice, but that flat rate, you need that flat rate to be high enough for those percentages to even matter. It's a pretty simple equation, I mean, but you know, 500% of, you know, 1 is a lot less than 250% of, you know, 20. So you want to make sure your flat rates are good and that you're not just stacking percentage. That kind of goes for all stats in the game. It's something that's not necessarily obvious, but once you kind of get used to looking for those items, you'll end up keeping much better items as you're looting. Let's see. So, Tarthian powder. So basically, you just gotta find the next area. Yeah, energy shield's good to stack though. It's probably my favorite, like, second defensive stat, that and obviously life. Also, make sure your resists are as close to cap as possible. So cap is 75. If you go into your character screen, it'll actually tell you what your resistance cap is at right now. Like for this witch that I'm running, I think it's my cold cap I need to add to. Yeah, so my fire is at 70, well, it's technically at 90, but it caps at 75. Lightning's at 84, but caps at 75, but my cold is only at 48. So if I run into cold enemies, it's, you know, not going to go too well for me. We actually ripped once tonight because I ran into some cold enemies. I actually have not done Flicker Strike yet. And that's kind of the cool thing about this game too, with as many skill gems and classes as there are. You can easily run into stuff you haven't done before. Well, since you're at level 70, running Act 10, you're going to be running into items that are, I'm trying to remember, I believe is it level 60? I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it's item level 60 to 74. If you can collect a full set, so by full set I mean you know, helmet, gloves, boots, chest piece, belt, 2 rings, amulet, and then enough weapons for the 2 slots. So either a 2-handed weapon or, you know, 2 one-handed weapons, a weapon and a shield, a bow, and, you know, the whole 9 yards. So basically just a full set. If you trade all those in to a vendor, it'll actually give you chaos orbs. Just keep in mind they all have to be between level 60 and 74, which pretty much all the items that you... Oh, it's 65? Okay. Yeah, I made a video on it recently. I don't know why I'm blanking out on it. I think it's because I've been doing the Regal recipe, which is level 75 and up. So I think I have that 74 stuck in my head, which is why I'm thinking 64. We're gonna rip here. This is bad. We're getting slowed way too much. Yeah, I saw that coming. We should not have gone into that. That was weird. I forgot that ring's there. I'm so used to my portal scrolls being there. Currency... Technically, your crafting orbs are the same thing as currency in this game. You don't actually get gold unless you count Parandus coins. But basically, all of your currency is the same as your crafting materials. Chaos orbs are the most standard to craft with. And that's why I recommend using the Chaos vendor recipe. Now keep in mind, if you don't identify the items, it'll actually give you 2 as opposed to 1.
Some of the members we have come across.
So go to our stash and just get rid of some of the stuff. So Fall Orbs, this corrupts items. I haven't really gone too far into that. But essentially corrupting an item, you can either improve it immensely or you can destroy it to the point where it actually disappears. We kept that for quality. Map for us there. Oh, that's right, we had all those items from the Immortal Syndicate. Yeah, you're going to gain a lot naturally just through playing through the game. Hey there, how's it going tonight? Yeah, see, just from getting rid of those items, I got, you know, quite a few different currency. And, like, the different items have their uses. It's not necessarily that you're going to want to use it all in the marketplace. Some of the more useful ones, in my opinion anyways, your chromatic orbs, you're going to use a ton of those just because it's going to help you change the different colors of the sockets in your items. Your jeweler's orbs, which will actually change the amount of sockets you have in your items. Your blacksmith's whetstones, that'll actually improve the quality of your weapons, which if you do that first, it'll actually make it more likely that you roll more sockets when you use these. I've made a few different guides on like the different crafting items and just kind of efficient ways to use them. It happens. I go through phases of the game too where, like, in just trying to craft one decent item, I end up going for broke and just not having a lot left to spend. Yeah, I do the same. I go through a lot of chromatic orbs, a lot of jeweler's orbs, a lot of orbs of fusing. Especially when I find like an item that has my witch actually doesn't even have that much currency, not compared to my Templar. I actually have not played my Templar very much ever since the flashback event started, because I've been running my Shadow quite a bit, which I've had a blast with. I've had a ton of fun playing the Shadow. I do not like this guy. It'd be really nice for our zombies to just finish him off. Alright, we're getting out of here. As you can see, our witch is actually pretty squishy right now. I need to find some better gear and just continue to pick up some health nodes. we are going to pick up a couple of decent health nodes here in the next couple of levels, ones that'll actually give us a higher percentage and a higher base. Zombies came through there. Alright, skeleton army. Get rid of this guy. There we go. That's what we needed. When it comes to actually doing your chaos recipe too, I would recommend picking up items that you don't want to identify. And typically you'll be able to tell that by the sockets. So this right here, this Destiny leather, has evasion rating, and which means it's a base of dexterity. I'm typically trying for either strength-based or intelligence-based items with my witch, so it's probably not something I'm going to use. But we don't need to do the Trial of Ascendancy. The area we need to go to is up here. So something like that I would pick up for the chaos recipe, just because it's not something that's really going to matter too much if I identify it. Now, in theory, it could potentially have good modifiers and be good for my character, but I'm not looking to stack evasion. So that's kind of a wasted stat, which is why I'm not really going to bother. Yeah, exactly. You want to pick up gear that you think can potentially help your character. And if you run into stuff like that piece back there that I can't really use, I would still hold on to that, throw it into one of your stash tabs for now until you have a full set, and then trade those in for chaos orbs once you have that full set. I think most belts are defensive, to be honest. There are quite a few that give resists and upgrades to life. Truthfully, I don't remember a lot of the belt modifiers off the top of my head. But you're more likely to find rings that are going to have useful attack stats as opposed to belts. Obviously with uniques it can go either way. And belts are one piece of gear that admittedly a lot of people will use an actual unique instead of a rare for, just because there are a lot of really good unique belts that are very good for like just different niches and builds. So at the end of the season, all your characters will be transferred over to Standard. It works basically the same way that like a Diablo season does, where it moves all your characters, all your items and that over to a stash for you to move over to your Standard. I mean, you're really not though if those uniques are actually like pivotal for your build. I mean, because currency is something you can always earn back. And, like, if you're not progressing, you know, there's nothing wrong with investing a little bit so you can keep progressing through the game, because you can't get more currency if you're not progressing. See, the nice thing about playing Standard is the fact that, I mean, the market is always going to be inflated on PS4, just because we don't have the amount of players that PC does, nor have people been playing the game for 6 years to, you know, accumulate a lot of items in the market. But it'll be better than League play, just because, you know, items will have been there for longer. You actually get Magma Orb relatively early too, so you should be able to start getting your gems and your support gems leveled up pretty quick. Oof. Yeah, we got slowed down. That's the thing with this witch. If I get slowed down, it's a bad time. That's the one thing I don't like about this movement skill that we have. Yeah, like we get caught in little areas like that and we're pretty much done for.
My love. You were too beautiful for this ugly world. I shall find you in the next.
Templar is a ton of fun. And like the Templar has a lot of, I mean, every character has a lot of diversity that you can use in the build. Templar's always been one of my favorites. Like the first character I ever built was a Templar. Like the volatile dead one that you see me using in a lot of my tutorial videos. That's actually like a variation of the very first Templar that I built. Nice. I like it. I think it's always fun to name your builds. I've really come along with my Shadow character strictly because I've been using Winter Orb with him, and Winter Orb is insane. So much damage. Winter Orb with Ice Spear, it eats things for breakfast. Like right after I beat Act 10, within the same night, I was doing, I want to say, Tier 7 maps. There's a couple of things that I need to do gear-wise on them. The big one is getting a Frostfurno hood, but I honestly don't know if I'll get one before the end of the season, just because it's such a rare item. There was only one on the marketplace for Flashback League. Winter Orb is insane. The reason why I like using the Shadow with Winter Orb is that you can pick up an Ascendancy node that makes it so your movement skills don't take any mana whatsoever. So you can basically just keep charging your Winter Orb and then just movement skill all over the map. Right now, because of my equipment, I'm using Shield Charge. And, I mean, you can finish a map within a matter of minutes. There's nothing wrong with getting a little lost. I wander all the time in the game. I'm actually having trouble finding the walls and the openings in this place right here. Yeah, after playing Shadow, like, I would highly recommend a Shadow. I feel like there should be a way to get in there. I built a duelist once on PC a long time ago. I don't remember much about it, to be honest. That's kind of been the thing with a lot of this, just getting accustomed to the game again. So I have a pretty solid grasp on, you know, all the basics, the base mechanics, but, you know, when it comes to even just navigating through certain acts, I still get lost at times. It doesn't help that the acts are never, you know, strictly go to this area and the next map is here. It's somewhat randomly generated. Honestly, like, it's the first league. Like, there's not really anything wrong with building a few different characters and kind of figuring out what you like. Yeah, the sign's a little all over the place. That's the thing, starting like right in the middle of the passive tree, it almost gives you too many options, which is why I think they make you actually, you know, unlock her. Armor and energy shield, that could be decent. Let's see, what exactly are we... I don't even remember what we're actually doing in the refinery. Oh, that's right, we're looking for that powder. I'm pretty sure we have a little, like, mini boss fight in here, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think that's kind of half the battle with, we were already in here. With playing the game is literally just finding, you know, a class that you like and then a build that you really like with that class. Honestly, when it comes to a lot of your skill gems, your supports are going to be some of the most important things. Just because it's going to add so much, you know, flat damage and everything. It took a long time for this game to come to PS4 from Xbox One and PC. I know a lot of them said it was, I don't think it's necessarily true, but I heard rumors it was a hardware issue. From seeing the way that the game can lag up sometimes, I honestly don't know if the Switch could handle it. As much as I love my Nintendo Switch, and I would love to play this game on the go, I don't know that the Switch could do it. Yeah, this is where we get that item, this boss fight right here. Like, this is technically an older game, but they've updated a lot of stuff over time with the graphics and everything else. Yeah, I'm gonna feel bad if it comes out on the Switch now, but I don't think it's gonna happen. However, come July, you can pick up Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And that's going to be a good time. I don't know if anyone in here ever played the first two Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. To me, I would kind of compare it to like a game like this and Diablo mixed with like a beat 'em up. A lot of fun. got Sin his items. We actually haven't picked up a lot of stuff. Oops, I think I may have just throw my portal scrolls in here. Yeah, and that's the thing too. The fact that it's an always online game. Let's see. Yeah, we'll stick with what we got. Since it's always online, it kind of kills the whole portable aspect of it anyways. Like for me to get my ARPG fix on the Switch, I just play Diablo 3 right now on there. I was actually surprised I got Warframe to run that well on the Switch. Oh, we didn't hit the waypoint in the quarry. That's fine. Yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed that they got Warframe to run as well as it does on the Switch. Not just running well, but like looking really good. But I mean, considering that Path of Exile still has issues, even on Xbox, just when too many enemies are rendered on the screen, it's gonna be too much work for the Switch. I know there are talks of them like creating another Switch that's more powerful, but I don't think they would do like an exclusive release for the new Switch as opposed to the old Switch. I appreciate having you in the stream, man. That's always the dilemma. You start watching, even when I'm at work, like if I just kind of check in to see what some of the streamers on Twitch are doing, it just gives me that desire to jump on and play even though I'm at work and it's not an option. Let's see, this should go to the quarry, yep. If the Vita would have actually functioned with its remote play the way that it was supposed to, like, PlayStation would have really been on something. So far, I've only streamed Path of Exile. That's kind of been my my breakout on the YouTube. I've played a couple games here and there, like played Fortnite back when everyone was playing Fortnite, but I don't think Fortnite really fits my personality, to be honest with you. I'm a little more laid back and relaxed. Shooters are fun, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I kind of like the ARPG genre. When Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 comes out, I actually picked up a capture card so I could stream on my Switch. So I'll hopefully play a little bit of that and stream some Ultimate Alliance 3 content. I do want to play Borderlands 3 when it comes out, but it's not a bad game. It's just the community's a little toxic. I mean, you get that with any game, but I mean that's another reason why like I do these videos and these streams on YouTube, is just to like create a positive environment for people. I actually used to play DC Universe Online a long time ago. I actually thought DC Universe was a little underrated. Surprisingly, I've actually never played World of Warcraft. I know a lot of people are really excited for Vanilla WoW. Marvel Heroes was my game for years. I played that on PC a ton. I think I just got lost here. I think my Steam hours said that I literally played Marvel Heroes on Steam for over 200 or 2,000 hours in the time it was out on PC, which is like a 4-year span, I think. It was out for a few years on PC before it came to PS4. It was unfortunate what happened with that game. Because like around 2015, 2016 on PC, that game like hit its stride. Like big time. Like, it was really good. Yeah, I've never played World of Warcraft. I've played a lot of other MMORPGs, but like, yeah, I've never played the granddaddy of them all. Yeah, I've literally made videos here on YouTube about how bad the trade market is. I only managed to get a little bit of a refund for my purchases on there. I was actually an Ultimate Founder. I rocked my black suit Spider-Man everywhere. Yeah, the main thing that, where is, oh, Sin's over here. He's even on the map, and I'm just talking away, running away from him. The main thing that actually attracted me to Marvel Heroes was, one, the fact that, yeah, obviously it was a Marvel game, and two, the original lead developer for it was David Brevik, who was also the lead developer behind the first 2 Diablo games. He's like a personal hero of mine in the game industry. Dude who's just behind a lot of great projects. He has a game that he's making by himself right now, like 100% by himself, called It Lurks Below. And it's kind of like if you mixed Diablo with Terraria. It looks really interesting. I know he does streams of that, and then I know he and his wife actually do Path of Exile streams. He's a big fan of this game also. Yeah, I'm actually really glad a lot of people watched that trade market video, just because I just didn't want to see people getting duped more than anything. You know, because I understand the reality of it is, like, I'm not going to change the mind of anyone who's, you know, posting items up there for ridiculous prices. They're not going to go, oh, he's right, I should stop doing that, and stop doing it. But if I could spread knowledge and teach people, like, how to craft their own items to avoid paying those overly inflated, you know, prices until someone reasonable posts an item that's not quite as bad, you know, I felt like I would help out a little bit there. For the most part, like, because in all reality, most of the items you're going to find in this game, they're not going to be worth a ton of currency. So I just honestly kind of put a lot of the stuff just up on the market, and if someone offers something on it, I just kind of usually take it. Like, and usually I'll just kind of list like some rares that have some good affixes that I don't use anymore, but maybe I use for a few levels. Nothing that's worth a ton, but like someone will offer me a chaos for it, and why not? It helps somebody out, and I get a chaos orb. It's a win-win. So that's something I would actually recommend to people too. Like, even though it's it seems like the prices are kind of dictated by the people who have, you know, an actual asking price associated with their item, don't be afraid to offer, you know, on one that doesn't have an actual asking price. Because there is a chance that either, one, they don't know what it's worth, and you might be able to get it for a decent price because of that, which, I mean, with them not knowing what it's worth, it probably isn't worth that much anyway, so you're probably better off that way. Or two, they may not care, which is kind of like my whole thing when I put items up is, you know, I just put them up there to get a couple of orbs, an orb or two, and to give someone an item that I just don't need. Yeah, and you shouldn't pay 50 chaos for a rare, so that's a good mentality to have. You shouldn't pay 50 chaos for most uniques. I mean, there's a couple, don't get me wrong, there are a few that are really worth it. And I guess rares could be worth it if they're like a 6-link. So 6 sockets that are all linked, but I mean, aside from that, like, yeah, it's pretty insane what people ask for some of the stuff on here. But I'm glad people have caught on. I'm glad that video went out and quite a few people watched it, so that way we're not catering to the people who are just listing their items up for insane prices. Funny story, so I was trying to get a shield for my shadow. Added quite a bit of spell damage for me, added life, shield, like is a really good item for the build that I'm trying to go for at the moment. Just because the one-handed swords that I need for that build, like there's literally none on the trade market at all, so it's not even an option. So I offered one guy, it was 10 chaos for it, because it's a reasonable price. Like a lot of people pay, you know, between 4 and 8 for this shield on PC for it. Like I told him that, and he just flat out said, you know, go try and get one of the other ones that's on the market. It's like, alright, fair enough. So I offered the next guy 10 for his, who didn't have an asking price, and he sold it to me. So I just thought it was kind of funny because the guy was being greedy, and at the end of the day, someone else sold theirs for 10 chaos, and that guy got nothing. So greed doesn't always pay. You're just wandering, because I'm hitting like every dead end in this place. But, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a good grasp of what's going on with the trade market, and that's good. Like, it's one thing I figured would happen when this game started, but I didn't realize the extent that it was going to happen. You know, PoE Ninja, that site that I talk about in that video, it's not always like 100% accurate, but it at least gives you a good baseline. Yeah, there's really not that many items in game that are worth that much. It's definitely true. I mean, if your gut tells you it's too much, it's probably too much. Keep getting pulled back, keep getting rubber banded. I thought that was a 6-link for a second. I was like, holy crap, there's a crafting base for someone. Yeah, I made 2 beginner guides. The first one, yeah, it got a lot of views, and I honestly made it when I was kind of rusty. So, like, I said a couple of things in that video that, like, weren't completely on base. Like, the whole thing about hardcore, like, your character getting wiped when you play hardcore and die. It's not true. You go to standard. I felt terrible about that fact. I know most people wouldn't care, but, Like, I actually went back into that video and threw captions on top of anything I said that could either be, like, misunderstood or wasn't fully accurate. Just because the thing with games like this is, like, they get updated so often, so a lot of the stuff that you'll say will only be, you know, relevant for a certain period of time. Things get patched. I mean, there was one point in this game's lifespan where, you know, half of these acts didn't even exist. It wasn't even that long ago. Like, one of my videos, I actually mentioned playing through the story twice and then getting the map, and that's not how the game works anymore. Like, now you have 10 acts, you play through the 10 acts, and then you map. But yeah, when it first came out, I was just super excited. So, you know, I made that beginner's guide, and for the most part, like, there's some good, like, early on starting information in there, especially when it comes to, like, you know, in that first area, you know, looting a bunch of stuff, so that way you can get some scrolls to identify stuff as you move through the game. But yeah, I made the beginner guide, and then I made, like, an ultimate beginner guide, which was kind of like a continuation, mostly to help people when it comes to, like, looting outside of the first couple areas, because I realized some people thought I meant picks up, like, up everything all the time always, and I only intended that for, like, the first couple areas to, like, you know, basically get you some base currency and, like, stuff to work with. Yeah, it was a learning experience, because that was really the first guide I had ever made for anything. One thing I ended up finding out that I thought was super cool too was how many viewers I actually ended up getting from outside of the States. I hate this room so much. Yeah, it's really cool how international this game is. And, like, it's just not stuff like you normally think about. Like, there's a few universal things like music, food, video games. I hate these things so much. Alright, Ball Army, do your thing. But yeah, if you've seen a PS4 guide, odds are it's probably from either me or a guy named Kamal. I actually didn't realize until, yeah, I was actually quite a few videos in. That's unfortunate. That's your friend's loss, though. This is a great game. So at least they turned you on to a solid game. But it was actually quite a few videos in that I actually realized, because Kamal would stop into my videos and, like, you know, be super positive and really encouraging. You know, he would leave likes and positive comments and everything. And then I realized, you know, quite a few videos in, like, oh, this guy makes videos too. Holy crap, I didn't know that. So I actually went into his channel and dropped some love as well. And I brought him up a few times during streams, kind of plugged his channel as well. It's because I think it's important, especially for you know, smaller YouTubers, to, you know, have more of a camaraderie as opposed to, like, oh, they do the same thing I do, rivalry. You know, it shouldn't be like that. It should be, you know, I make videos to help people, and so does he. So I think it's important for content creators to support each other in that way. And I think, like, the way you present yourself and, like, the content you put out there and the way you act, I think, you know, that kind of attracts those type of people too. So, like, I try to be positive and informative and just, you know, in general decent to people. And I feel like in return that, like, I have, you know, genuinely nice people who actually subscribe to my channel and watch my content, and, you know, it's a very positive vibe. And, you know, I feel like if you kind of, like, go into, you know, your content and have, like, a negative attitude and just, you know, aren't that nice of a person, like, you're going to attract a lot more of, like, those trolls. And I've had a few on my channel, and, like, it's not a big deal. Like, you just ignore them and you move on. You know, and it helps when you have, like, so much overwhelming positivity with, you know, your general viewer base and, like, the people who you're involved with. I agree. There's way too many rivalries and people. I think it's like I think the bigger a lot of the channels get, like, I don't know if they worry about, like, their revenue flow or what it is. Like, for me, like, YouTube's just become a really fun hobby for me. You know, I work a full-time job, and, you know, I don't mean to say this in a negative way at all, but I don't think my YouTube page will ever become big enough to the point where I, you know, wouldn't be working a full-time job. Just because, like, the amount of viewers and view time and, like, sponsorship and, like, everything that you need in order to, like, make a living on YouTube, it's a lot. So I think it's just important to, like, appreciate what you have. Like, I never thought I'd have a YouTube page that would, you know, we're up to 1,200 subscribers. I never thought I'd get there. It's been awesome. I get to talk to a lot of nice people. I get to, you know, help people out with a game that I really like. You know, it's been a fun ride, and I hope it keeps going. The other nice thing about being the size of YouTube channel that mine is the fact that it makes it possible for me to interact with people. It's like, I'm sure a lot of, like, the bigger YouTubers and, like, Twitch streamers, like, they do try their best to, you know, talk with their viewers and everything, but, you know, when you've got thousands of people watching your streams and, you know, 1 million subscribers, like, there's only so much stuff that those people can respond to. Thanks, man, I appreciate that.
At last.
Yeah, and honestly, like, as long as people are still enjoying the content and, like, are still finding the videos useful, like, I'll still be here making them. This might be a rough boss fight. We've been kind of, like, cheesing through most of these boss fights. I feel like this one might actually hurt a little bit. You know, and, like, I know those bigger YouTubers, like, it may be their livelihood, and, like, this may be their full-time job, but still, like, you can't possibly balance, like, thousands of people trying to talk to you at the same time. So, I mean, that's why I kind of take advantage of where I'm at now as much as I can while I can. But I mean, it's a positive either way, because, like, if the channel grows to a point where, like, I do struggle to have the interactions I have now, it just means that, the channel's grown and, like, I've reached that many more people, and that's awesome. But at the same time, like, if it stays around this size, it means I can continue to have, a bit more personal interactions with everyone. So it's kind of a win-win. This boss fight actually wasn't that bad.
You're questioning me, the great sea mistress. Well, I suppose
Yeah, I mean, making a livelihood off of YouTube, it'd be super cool.
ready to go? Just in time.
But I mean, at this point, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun. I mean, read through the chat for this stream. It's been nothing but nice, positive people. I feel like that's the other downside to when channels get really big, is the fact that, with a higher percentage of people, those one or two trolls that you get on occasion, it turns into hundreds, which in comparison is a small amount, but I think it's a lot more difficult to block out a couple of negative things than to accept a bunch of positive things. I've actually gotten a little bit of rubber banding just playing tonight on PS4. So yeah, usually, I mean, it's pretty much a daily occurrence. It doesn't happen all the time, but yeah, I've definitely noticed it. See, and yeah, that's the other thing. Like, it would be super stressful to, like, make a living off of YouTube and, like, really have to worry about your channel and every video being successful in order for you to, pay your bills. But, I mean, that's why I have a lot of respect for people who are able to do it. Let's see if either of these are any good. What do our current boots look like? No, I'll stick with what we got.
Oh there.
I actually, I wasn't monetized at the time that I made it. My channel didn't actually get monetized until a couple weeks ago. So I think overall, and the amount of views I had on that video got me, like, I'm not even exaggerating, like $6 or $7. I don't really make much money on YouTube at all. Which is fine. Like, that's not why I do it. I thought it was cool that, YouTube monetized me in the first place. I know it makes you guys sit through an ad at the beginning of the video, which I apologize for. It's pretty minimal, but it's just a cool feeling to be there. It makes you feel like more legit. So we're actually in Act 10. Let's go rescue this guy. So yeah, trust me, anyone considering, like, making YouTube content, like, don't do it for the money, because, like, I don't say it to be discouraging, but, you have to get huge to, like, make a bunch of money on YouTube. And I feel like if that's the reason why you do it, you're probably not going to make good content anyways.
You there?
Like, you know, if you're going to do YouTube, like, do it because there's something you care about. You know, do it because there's something that you're passionate about, a game you're passionate about, or like just something that you want to accomplish through YouTube. It doesn't necessarily have to be gaming. Like, just anything. If you're, you know, if you're like a musician or something, you know, do it because it's a passion of yours, not because you plan on being super successful or, you know, making it big. Just, you know, do it because you like it. Money's cool and all, but you know, once something becomes a job, you lose some enjoyment out of it. So any class can equip any weapon, but depending on what you're trying to do with your build, you're not necessarily going to want to use just any weapon. And as odd as it sounds, one of the biggest things that you may dictate your weapons on is based on the movement skill that you want to use. So, like, I really like wands for a lot of the characters that I use, just because I usually, I like to have, like, that extra spell damage, and typically you can get elemental damage. You can just roll a lot of different damage types on wands, which also makes them more difficult to craft. But the one downside to using a wand is it's the only one-handed weapon that if you equip it with a shield, you still can't use shield charge. I don't know why they did that, but it's just something to keep in mind. Shield charge is one of my favorite movement skills. So if I craft a wand and use a wand, I can't use shield charge, which kind of sucks. Let's see. Grab another life flask, actually. Oops. Wrong button. But yeah, I mean, the different skill gems that you're trying to use and like the different affixes that you're trying to roll are going to be more important towards your weapon type than the actual character class that you play. I mean, typically, like, a ranger's going to use a bow, but you know, a lot of that has to do with the different ascendancy nodes and just typically how people build a ranger in the first place. That's not bad. Remove shock. Yeah, so we'll have one that'll remove bleeding, another that'll remove shock. That'll be good. I try to be. Like, I'm by no means on the same level as, like, a lot of the, you know, the PC streamers are, but those guys have been playing nonstop since 2013, and they're kind of like high-end level of this game to where they're explaining to you like the very minute details of absolutely everything to the point where it can get a bit daunting. Where I'm more so like that entry level, like, help you progress and build up to being just a better player in general type of knowledge. Yeah, crit spell is nice, especially because there's actually a lot of different nodes you can take in the passive tree that'll improve not only your crit, but there are a lot that are specifically for critical hit chance and damage on spells. And we'll progress a little bit through here. I'd say the one thing that I do like about kind of where I am with this game, though, is the fact that I feel like I was able to reach out to the player base I wanted to reach out to. Because I don't mean to like poke at anybody, but like with the PC players, there is a lot more elitism. Like, and you kind of see it during the streams when, like, guys are getting poked at, like, oh, why did you use this instead of this weapon that has, you know, this specific modifier on it? And it's like, well, you know, maybe he's not min-maxing. Maybe that's not that big of a deal. Whereas to here, like, there's just a lot more suggestions and, like, a helpful nature from people. And, like, being where we're at now, you know, as I play more and more, and, like, you guys play more and more, like, we're going to get to a point where, like, we're all, you know, learning that top-end stuff later on. And, like, I'm making more advanced videos later on. Yeah, and, like, daggers are still a little more difficult than other weapons to craft, but wands are probably the worst, just because of how many different affixes you can get. Yeah, I mean, where the PC guys come from, like, it's just, you play a game for so long, and... Oops, I did not mean to enter there. You play a game for so long, and, like, you don't really think about, like, the fundamentals and, like, the mentality of someone coming into something brand new, just because it's become second nature to you at that point. Like, when this game had come out on PS4, I had actually taken a pretty long break from it on PC just because of the fact that, like, none of my friends owned, like, a gaming rig that could actually play the game, and I just got sick of playing by myself. Yeah, pretty much any build you look at that anyone uses shield charge on fortifies right there. Usually fortify and faster attacks. I've been, lately I've actually been linking it to with curse on hit. Like, if I decide to run it in a 4-link, I'll do fortify, curse on hit, and then just whatever curse makes the most sense with it. I've been having quite a bit of fun trying that out. And I've actually found that scepters are also a pretty nice substitute for wands. See, I've actually never really used whirling blades just because of the fact that I just don't dual wield very often. I think it's just because I like the extra defensive measure of having that shield. I think curse on hit's really underrated. Like, one of my favorite things about this game too is, like, how complex you can get with, like, the different defensive layering and, like, using marks and using curses and, like, finding out the ways that different support gems, like, completely alter your skills. I think that's where this game gets, like, really fun when it comes to theory crafting. So typically an orb of fusing is usually the only surefire way. Well, it's the only way to actually get more sockets on a particular item. But there's also, I forget what the orb is called off the top of my head. You can get them from saving shards from harbingers. and you can upgrade a white item to a rare item that has at least 4 links, or has up to 4 links. I think those wings are actually in the marketplace here too. Orb of Binding, that's what it is. Yeah, you can use that to craft a 4 link. Otherwise, you can, oh, no worries, man. You can actually trade items with some of the in-town vendors to get more orbs of fusing. I believe it's jeweler's orbs you can trade in for orbs of fusing. I'm getting deja vu because the video I made today was in the same area. Yeah, your odds of linking all 6 sockets are not the greatest. That's why the tabula rasa is such a popular item. I want to say the area that we're going to. I don't think it's this entrance here. I think it's just north of here. Yeah, 6 socket is, it's, well, 6 linked sockets is pretty difficult to find. Yeah, exactly. You always want to use, you want to get it up to 20% quality before you try linking the different sockets, because it'll actually increase your probability. And just to kind of show you here, because I'm pretty sure there's someone in literally every hub that'll actually sell you some fusing orbs. Yeah, you'll find a lot of different socketing recipes while delving in the mines. There's ones that you can use to guarantee specific colors for your sockets too, which can be really useful because your probability of different colors on sockets is based off of the main attribute. So like, this one's an intelligence item. And you can tell that by the fact that it gives energy shield. So that has the highest probability of rolling blues. So rolling reds and greens on this are much more difficult. So like, say I was trying to roll like 3 reds on this for some reason, it'd pretty much be a lost cause. Like, my odds of rolling 3 reds from just sitting there and using chromatic orbs, you could literally sit there all day and not get 3 reds just from rolling it that way. So that's something to keep in mind too when you're trying to roll different colors. I don't know if there is a 6-link recipe. So she sells gems. Okay, so he sells items for quality. So these are what you actually want to use on your items to increase the quality. So that way it makes it more likely that you get those links. And I think it's Lonnie actually who sells. Yeah, so she'll over here actually sell some items. So yeah, 4 jeweler's orbs for an orb of fusing. And you can get more jeweler's orbs from orbs of alteration. So this is kind of how like the different currencies are actually valued too, aside from chaos, which they don't sell chaos orbs. That would make sense. So there is one that's just super expensive. But honestly, to get all those links, you may end up burning through all those anyways. I knew what you meant. Oh, we didn't actually hit the waypoint there. But yeah, for anyone who's wondering too, a 6-link is the most that you're going to end up getting, and you can only get it on your chest piece or a 2-handed weapon. So if you end up looking at builds online, most of the time you're typically only going to see one skill that's a 6-link. Did we not? Oh, I didn't do it from the waypoint. Just standing like right next to it. Most of the time you're only going to see them have one skill that's a 6-link, unless they are using 2 weapons, but even then they may separate out the links and just use it as like a 4-link and a 2-link or 2-3 links. Yeah, that's the thing, like, you're better off using that recipe because RNG can just be super, super cruel. You could get really, really lucky, but odds are probably better that you're gonna get boned trying to just randomly roll a 6-link. There we go, that should give us, what's our effective life right now? It's about 2,600 life, only another 600 energy shield, so yeah, we're squishy. I will say, like, I shouldn't complain about RNG, though, because I didn't post the video of it. I thought about it, but it had no commentary, so I didn't really know if anyone would want to watch it or not, and it's only about, like, a minute long anyways. But yesterday on my... I think it was... Yeah, it was yesterday. I had a Tabula Rasa drop for my flashback character, so that was pretty awesome. That actually also happened around this area. Yeah, this area in Act 10 is huge, but I've had a lot of luck with getting good loot in this area. And a lot of that has to do with, like, the difficulty spike. Like, obviously, the more difficult the content, the more enemies, the more loot, the better chance for good loot. But yeah, this league, I've had 2 Rasas drop. Well, I guess only one was technically a drop, because I got one through a prophecy. Which is another reason why you should always try and keep your prophecies maxed out too. Like, try and always be running 6 of them. I just heard something good drop. So this is... I always forget because I never use this skill. Get out of here. Whoops. Oh, charge dash, duh. See, and so this is what I was talking about. So typically a lot of people are going to put Fortify support on their actual movement skill just because it grants a defensive buff. And then I've been using Curse on hit and then Enfeeble, and I do that essentially so that way not only am I getting that defensive buff, but I'm also debuffing my enemies when I hit them with that too. And one of the most valuable pieces of, you know, having an attack skill or like a movement skill like this when you have minions is it can actually kind of help direct your minions on what to attack. So like if I attack this way, they're going to attack what I hit for the most part. The AI is not perfect on it, but for the most part you can kind of dictate what enemies you want your minions to go after. This one admittedly isn't one of my favorite movement skills, but it works really well for this build. Just because I have that elemental equilibrium on here, so this does lightning damage, and then since I have hatred linked with generosity, that's giving my minions just pure cold damage. So when I hit with my electricity, it's actually giving all my enemies 50% less resist to fire and ice, well, fire and cold. And when your minions hit, that actually doesn't affect elemental equilibrium. So what I mean by that is when you hit with cold, they're not gaining that cold resist when your minions are hitting with it. It would only be if you hit with it. And 2 of the 3 builds that I've made this season or this league have actually revolved around some form of elemental equilibrium. Just because, I mean, it's kind of the same concept as you wanting to have all your resist as high as possible, because if you don't, then you're going to take a ton more damage. So essentially you're basically forcing your enemies to no longer have a bunch of that elemental resist. There we go, there's the waypoint. So yeah, if you ever need a nice little damage buff and you realize that you know, you're only doing one type of elemental damage, there are a couple different ways that you can, well, I suppose it's only if you have your minions doing a specific type of damage, or in the case of my Shadow, there's a very specific and clever way that elemental equilibrium is used on him that involves a specific, unique, and a specific skill gem. And I'll probably break down my Shadow character at some point in the video, because it probably is my most complicated build. A lot of the original ideas for that build came off of the Reddit page a while back. I don't remember the user's name. I just remember he was based in China. and he had kind of come up with some theory crafting stuff. And one of my favorite content creators who makes a lot of really great builds, his name's Gazzy. He had made his own build kind of based off the idea. And I kind of saw what he was doing, and then kind of came up with my own ideas of a few things that I could do with the build that were just, you know, slightly different and more catered to my playstyle. And I think that's a really great way to gain an understanding of the way that different skill gems work together and items work together and the passive tree works, is to study different builds. Not necessarily, you know, copying them verbatim, but just kind of understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and then see what you may want to do differently, that you may find more fun, that may be more effective for your own personal playstyle, or something that would just make the build more realistic to use. Because a lot of the builds that you're going to find online, they're going to have like a lot of unique items and other things on that build that just aren't going to be easy to obtain, especially because most of the people who create build guides are playing on PC, where, you know, the trade market is much more reasonably priced on PC. You know, values of items have just, they've already been established there. There's a lot more experienced players who are able to push through leagues a lot faster. Like, there's already multiple players on PC who in Flashback League have made it to level 100. Last I checked, which I think was like last night, there still hasn't been a PS4 player who's made it to level 100. And like, I don't even necessarily think that that has to do with player skill. I think it has to do more with item availability. You know, in order to hit level 100, you know, not only do you have to dedicate the time, have the skill, and create a great build, but you also need those items that are, you know, necessary for you to finish out that build. Because the death penalties are so high when you're in those last 10 levels. Like, after you hit level 90, even in the 80s, like, a few deaths can completely negate all the experience that you've been gaining over the last few hours. Which is why it's such an achievement to be able to get to level 100. Like, right now, I think my Flashback character is only around, like, level 77. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I just don't have a ton of playtime. But there's a lot of Trickster Shadows who are around, like, I want to say, like, between level 93 and 96. That's where about the top end of the group is right now. You know, and some of those guys, they won't reach level 100, and it's not a knock on their skill, and it's not to say that their builds are bad, because that's not the case at all. It's just the fact that a lot of them probably need, like, one particular item or two particular items to finish out their build. But since there's not enough people grinding that end game content, it just isn't on the market, or if it is, it's up there for a ridiculous price, so it's just not obtainable. So that's the main reason why I think it's important to kind of look at these builds, study them, and just figure out different ways to do things. You know, one thing with Gazzy's guide for that shadow that I'm using now is he uses two items that are called bell timbers, and they're these really awesome one-handed swords that increase the amount of projectiles that you shoot out, which makes Winter Orb and Ice Spear ridiculous. Like, you can just, you know, dominate everything with those skills. But if you look on the Flashback League trade market on PS4, there's none available. Yeah, there's just a lot of limitations in general. I mean, so the fact that those guys have reached like the mid 90s on PS4 like already, you know, I give those guys mad props. That's awesome. Requires a lot of dedication, a lot of play time, and probably a lot of theory crafting on their part. You know, my goal for Flashback was just to hit level 95. Just because I wanted to be in all of the different item draws. And I'm hoping I can still get there. We'll see. I'll make it to level 85 for sure. Yeah, time will tell. I'm pretty confident in my build. It's lacking in a couple areas right now. Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, like honestly, if you finish in the 90s in Flashback, like you put in some work, period. Like you can't hit like the 90s without, you know, a solid grasp on the game. Like you have to have pretty solid knowledge about what you're doing. You literally can't just follow a build guide and still make it to the 90s. So one thing you'll actually notice about a lot of these Act 9 and Act 10 areas is that they're just really large. So I feel like there's actually a lot less missions to do, but the area you're traversing is just a lot larger. Nice, that is awesome. Yeah, right now, I think like a tier 8 map is as high as I've done so far on my Shadow. It doesn't struggle nearly as much as I thought he would for the gear that I have, but I don't really know how many tiers higher I can go with him at this moment. The big thing is I need a Frost Verno like none other, and there was only one on the marketplace from what I saw, and the guy wanted 3 Exiles for it, which I can't even hate on that because the Frost Verno, you know, it's got the only one on the market, and even on PC, like, it goes for a decent amount. Can you share? So you can share items as long as your characters are in the same league. So if you're running Flashback and normal synthesis, you can't share items between the two because Flashback is technically it's its own league. But if you have 2 characters that are Flashback, or 2 characters that are just in normal synthesis, or 2 characters that are in standard, you can share items between them by just using your stash space. So like with my witch, if I go back into town and access my stash, since she's just a normal standard synthesis character, my Templar is too. So anything that's put in my stash for my Templar is also there for my witch, which is why I've been using 2 separate stash tabs strictly for my witch, so that I'm not sharing items, because the whole point of this playthrough... Oh, normal to hardcore, no. It's technically 2 separate leagues. Hardcore is its own thing. I think the biggest reason for that, one, is to kind of preserve the challenge of, you know, leagues like hardcore. And the second is, you know, keep things kind of even between people who are potentially, you know, racing in hardcore. mostly because I actually only create one character. So the fact that I created, 3 throughout synthesis, I guess technically 2 in synthesis and 1 for flashback. I actually kind of did it to just shake off the rust a little bit, to be honest. It had been a few months since I'd played any Path of Exile. I don't consider myself like a top tier fantastic player by any means, just someone who understands the game. I'm not going to be winning any races anytime soon. Yeah, and to be honest, Diablo 3 knowledge really isn't going to translate too much to this game anyways. It's not a knock on Diablo 3, but this game just has a lot more depth. It's a lot more complicated. Your build is a lot more important. Like Diablo 3, you can swap between your skills at any time you want to. Where in this game, if like you screw up your passive tree and you don't have enough points to refund, like you kind of screwed your build. There's ways around it, but not easy ways around. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And that's the goal. Like, that's why I started making these videos, was to help people out. That's very true, because Diablo 2, you actually had to go ahead and assign your skills, well, your stats, much more similar to how this game works. Not an exact replica, but with Diablo 2, if you didn't assign your skills right, like, again, you could have a character that's borderline useless for endgame content. And like, I still think Diablo 3 is a decent game. Like, I don't really hate on it. It's fun in its own regard. It's a bit more of a casual RPG, which there's nothing wrong with that. It appeals to a different player base than a game like this. Armor and energy shield. So it has some strength to it. I start at 8 o'clock Central Time every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I just kind of run it until whenever. Like tonight, I'm actually running this stream a bit longer than I normally run my streams. If the chat's active, it's hard for me to jump off sometimes. And then typically when that happens, I end up doing exactly what I'm doing tonight, where when I first started the stream, I kind of rushed through Act 9 in a decent amount of time, and in Act 10, I've been more or less chatting while doing Act 10. But basically, I try to get through one act, and sometimes I get off subject and I just start kind of chatting and answering questions and stuff. But I mean, I think that's kind of the point to streaming at the same time. My audience isn't huge, so I'm still to a point where I can engage in conversation with everyone. Man, I feel like this footprint sale has been going on forever. So it'd be a nice upgrade to energy shield. Maximum life roll sucks. Tier 12, that's terrible. Energy shield regen, that's actually pretty nice. 3 prefixes, 1 suffix. So fire and lightning resist. So my 2 highest, I could afford to drop 15 fire. Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that I mentioned David Brevik earlier on in the stream, the guy who was the lead programmer behind the first two Diablo games, and he had left Blizzard before 3 had started development, and you can tell, like, his spirit's really missing from that game, and it's a completely different game without him developing it. Um, Everyone knows about the cow level in Diablo. Um, like that's him, like that's his baby, like the cow level, that's David Brevik, the Cow King. He actually studied video game development in Wisconsin, where it's actually where I'm from. I wish I could scroll up to see the comments. Winston, were you talking about the new Batman movie? Because the new Batman movie kind of breaks my heart. For sure, man. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Definitely happy to help. As much as I want to use that for that extra energy shield, it's just not worth it. Yeah, right? Exactly. Like, even Marvel Heroes had a cow level. At least on PC it did. I don't remember if there was one. No, we never got the cow event because he had actually left Gazillion before the game came on PS4. Not doing melee attacks anyways. Oops. I actually haven't seen the Batwoman trailer. I truthfully haven't paid a lot of attention to the DC stuff in general, just because I've been so disappointed by most of it. Which kind of hurts me deeply, because, like, I grew up such a huge Batman fan. It's crazy because, like, Marvel's hit it out of the park. Marvel had, like, awesome Netflix shows. They've had great movies. That's kind of funny. See, like, I think they could do Batwoman well. And I think they can do, like, most female heroes well. They just have to stop with, like, the blatant pandering, like the no flaws, do stuff perfectly all the time. Like, we want to see character development, like, we want to see the struggles. Like, that's what makes characters interesting. And I don't know if, like, they think that's a sign of weakness, but like that's actually a sign of like character strength. You root for people who have things to overcome. You know, like a good example of that is like Rey in Star Wars. Like, you know, that could be a super appealing character if, you know, she had some sort of like conflict to overcome, but she doesn't. So like the public just hasn't taken very well to that character. You know, but there's other characters who've been done super well. Like Black Widow's a great example. You know, Black Widow has an awesome backstory and like all of these personal struggles, and like you see so much character growth throughout the different movies she's involved with in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it just makes for a really interesting character. And it's a female character that's done well. She doesn't pander to anyone, and you know, she's just a badass hero. You know, like Scarlet Witch is kind of like the same thing. Scarlet Witch is a super cool character in the MCU. Just something I think writers need to pay more attention to. We're not looking for perfect characters. We're looking for, you know, just interesting characters, regardless of, you know, like gender, race. Like, it doesn't matter. We just want interesting. Oh, nice. We have a unique strongbox. Yeah, when it comes down to it, like when it comes down to like superheroes and movies and TV shows, like I just want to be entertained. I want to be told a good story, and like I could really care less about much more than that. And I really want this guy to die. Like, two things I want right now. Good story. And for this enemy to just go down. Oh, I'm stuck. Crap. That sucked. Rip. Yeah, back on the whole Diablo thing though, I hope when Diablo 4 actually does come out that it's a lot more like 2. I think that's why Path of Exile has such a great following, because it is a lot of people who played and really enjoyed, you know, Diablo 2 and just didn't quite get out of Diablo 3 what they were looking for. That's that freeze that got us. You were going down, bro. Dear Lord. Look at that. That's beautiful. Only one Chaos Orb, but I mean, still. You could tell playing through the game that these guys, absolutely loved Diablo 2. It shows through the environment, the play style, like the intricate leveling system with the skill tree and everything. This game's basically Diablo 2 on steroids. I know for me, I'm gonna die here too. Nope, we got out of there. For me personally, like, Diablo 2 was the one game I spent a ton of time on PC playing. Like, I didn't get a PC until I was probably a teenager when, like, we finally got a PC in my house and found, like, an old copy of Diablo 2 that actually had a key that was still intact with it, and just I fell in love with that game. It made me just fall in love with the ARPG genre in general. It ended up inspiring me to play games like Champions of Norath and Return to Arms, and just really opened the doors for just an entire genre of games for me. I actually built myself a retro console. So maybe I'll actually, because I've never played through the very first Diablo, but with the retro console I built, it would actually be a possibility to stream through that with my capture card. So maybe we'll do that someday. It sounds like it could be some fun. So I think the other nodes I was looking at were down here. Yeah, because that was another plus 20 to max life and another percentage increase also. I keep hearing of all these rumors. I keep hearing all these rumors that they're gonna do a remaster of Diablo 2, but the longer they talk about it, the more it seems like it's just a pipe dream. I think it's to be a huge moneymaker, which is why I'm surprised they haven't done it. Blizzard being owned by Activision now and all. I mean, I personally would throw money at a Diablo 2 remaster, especially if they brought it to console. Ooh, rip. There is a yearly event that they do in Diablo 3 that I actually really like, where you play through a dungeon that I think is supposed to essentially be like the Diablo 1 playthrough. Like, I always play that quite a bit when that comes out. It's always during the anniversary of Diablo. I think they run it for like a month. Really hope so. I mean, they'd have an instant following. Like, they'd have an instant fan base. A ton of people would buy it. The game literally defined a genre. It's also, as far as I can remember, the only Diablo game that never made its way to console. So, I mean, it would also make sense to do a remaster for that reason alone. Especially if I can get it on my Switch. Play Diablo 2 everywhere. I could probably get rid of half of my Switch games at that point. That's the only way I actually play Diablo 3 anymore, is on my Nintendo Switch. I played it on PC, like when it first came out. Oh god. I already got in trouble once for giving my opinion on Diablo Immortal. Spoiler, it's a terrible idea. I don't know. Like, there's some mobile games that have been done well, but I mean, I don't know. That's just not how I want to play an ARPG. It just seems like a pain. Like, my thumbs are gonna cover everything. Unless I play on a tablet, but even then, like, it's just not gonna feel right. I mean, they could, even if they did like a great job with it, it still wouldn't feel right. Oh, if Blizzard wants to solve the problem, they need to figure out a way out of their contract with Activision so they can start calling their own shots again. Not to say everything was peaches and cream before they, you know, got in cahoots with Activision, because I know, you know, David Brevik himself has talked about how a lot of things changed at Blizzard over the years, which is why he left. But I mean, in today's day and age, like, it just really feels like the smaller developers are just making better stuff. I think it's because they see more than just dollar signs. Because, I mean, let's be realistic. When you make a mobile game, you're looking at dollar signs. I mean, I know the point of every game is to make money. And, like, I love Path of Exile, but, like, this game's not innocent either. Like, the cosmetics are priced crazily. But, you know, you don't need that stuff to enjoy the game. Where a lot of mobile games, like, you actually have to purchase stuff in order to be able to play it to its full potential. This is like the worst place for the syndicate to show up. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna need some gear upgrades before we fight Kitaba one last time.
He planned for this. He expected our interference.
Go on, do it. You're no stranger.
So typically when I run the syndicate like this, I'll usually execute early on.
You want to be friends?
Just because interrogation-wise, you're not going to get much for them until they're actually a couple ranks higher.
Blessings.
Yeah, picking up stuff isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but like there's some frustrating moments where like I keep moving the right stick and it just doesn't want to hover over the item that I want it to. But I think that'll get better over time too. Well, you're probably right, and that's a good strategy. And they make a lot of stuff to where like you can look like specific characters in the game. Like I noticed from the sale they've got going on right now that like there's a belt effect that can make you look like Sin. It looks really cool. Oh, hey, look, and I'm not really good at anything. Yeah, the only way I typically end up purchasing any cosmetics in this game is through supporter packs, and it's just because of all the currency that comes with it. Like, I got the one supporter pack, you know, this league, literally just so I could build up a bunch of stash space with the currency that came with it. Because I only got like $5 less of currency than what I normally would have if I'd have just purchased the currency separately. And I kind of liked the outfit, so I just went with it. We got a few maps for once we get to endgame too, which is nice. Stash was the one thing I had no problem throwing some money at. I can't play Path of Exile without a currency tab. And I'm such a hoarder in general when it comes to games like this that just I need that extra stash space. Right? I'm actually genuinely surprised how many of the cosmetic items that they actually sell. Just because, I mean, I see people running around town, you know, wearing the $50, $60 pairs of wings. Which is fine, like, oh, damn, we're actually at Katava. So this isn't gonna go well. I can tell you that right now. I mean, it's fine to spend what you want on a game. I personally wouldn't invest into something like that. Oh, we're gonna die so many times right here. I'm telling you right now. This is not gonna go well. We are not geared for this at all. I feel like Diablo 2 was the game that originated the mule account. Yeah, like our character is not ready for this at all, gear-wise. It's actually not terrible. We lose a bunch of resists, though. That's what sucks. Yeah, we'll run in here a couple more times, but what I may end up doing is just, because the stream's been going for a while anyways, we may just kind of end the stream for the night, and I'll build some gear while I'm offline, so that way we're actually prepared for this fight. Yeah, that's the crappy thing about the different time zones, is the fact that what's 10 o'clock for me is much later or earlier for other people. Yeah, we're just wasting experience at this point. I need to build up some more life on my gear before we do this fight. Yeah, so we're getting one-shotted. So basically what's going on is I've been running some pretty bottom tier items for a while now. I mean, we're level 65. And if you look at the item levels to 58, that's not horrible. Oh, yikes. You pay attention. But if you look at some of our other items, so 57's not horrible. Level 44, and it gets worse. 29, 39, 54 is okay. 48's kind of bad. 43, like, I haven't upgraded a lot of these items in a while. So I'll probably end up doing that off stream, just so you guys don't have to see the boring monotony of me crafting a bunch of item bases. Because essentially what my strategy here will be, I kind of, yeah, and it's because of the fact that you can literally just stack your defense. Like, most attack skills mean literally nothing for your summoners whatsoever. I'll probably actually use this chess piece just because it has those zombies and skeletons and a bunch of energy shield for us, and that intelligence just adds more energy shield, some life regen. This is actually a pretty nice piece of equipment. So I'll probably just use a few jeweler's orbs to get 4 sockets on this, and then some orbs of fusing to actually have them all connected to replace this piece of armor. And then I'll just have another piece of equipment that I make sure we make up for that fire resistance and a lightning resistance that we're missing. Although we're over 75 on both of those, so we won't have to make up for that much. And that's kind of the main strategy I usually have when I'm going through and crafting stuff, is, you know, I kind of make sure that if I'm taking resists off of one item, that I have another item that I can put on it. Zombies are fun. So, like, and there's a, I mean, you can literally roll resists on any item. And the thing is, we can just find another really good item too, and just mastercraft any resists that we're missing too. So, like, even though this is only level, or item level 43, that 60 to max life is pretty nice, and there's a couple of resists. The armor's kind of a wasted stat though. Yeah, it's going to be another 30% off, but can always craft more gear at that point too. And, like, just naturally from getting rid of a lot of this lower level stuff, I'm going to end up finding more elemental resists. Like, this is giving me 4 elemental resist to each one. That's, we'd be better off finding a ring that's literally giving us, you know, any amount of elemental resist to anything. This is actually a super bad ring. I don't even know why we're still using this. I just haven't paid attention because we've just been running through the story. But yeah, we've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. I actually planned on ending after Act 9, and we ended up walking all the way through to Act 10 to the end. So yeah, we'll probably cut off the stream here. Like I said, I'll just go ahead and get some new gear crafted. So for the stream on Wednesday, we'll probably just finish off Kitava. I'll go through just a few basic mapping tips, and then anyone who's viewing the stream will probably go ahead and the only reason I'm actually keeping these gloves right now is because of those charges. But there's better ways to build up stats too. But yeah, you guys all have a great night on Wednesday. Once we finish Kitava, I'll probably invite a few people to just go ahead and do some early tier maps. So if any of you guys have some characters that are able to run, like, you know, even if they are a little over leveled for the maps, that's fine. I don't mind. We can run, you know, some early tier maps and just work our way through the Atlas a little bit and kind of demonstrate mapping a little bit, because I've only really made the one video on it and haven't touched on it too much since. So I think it'd be a good opportunity to do that. And then on Friday we'll run even more maps, so it just gives us an opportunity to do a little bit more end game stuff. But again, thank you everyone for dropping in. It's been a lot of fun, obviously. Otherwise I wouldn't have streamed another hour and a half past what I thought I was going to. I do apologize that Act 10 was kind of more of a literal walk/crawl through, but I like to get a little distracted in the chat after I kind of reach my goal for the night. So hope you all had fun. I had a great time. Until next time, may the RNG be with you always.